Welcome to another episode of Battleground Chats. Today, I thought I'd do something a little different. Today, I thought I would talk about myself and my journey from when I started as a graduate at KPMG up until today running Battleground. It was just after Y2K, and I had done the previous year a vacation work at KPMG in Melbourne and joined the firm as a graduate. And what was fascinating for me was I had done the internship with the consulting team. And in that year between doing the internship and starting as a graduate, the firm had split. And there was now Bearing Point and KPMG. And I was at KPMG put into audit. I'd never done financial audit before. In commerce, I had focused on management, marketing, and done a double degree with IT. So it was all new. I had no idea what I was doing, but I keep reflecting on it. It was a really interesting time in my career because it really made me question what I was doing, why I was doing it. It made me definitely more resilient in my work and taught me how to ask the right questions because I had to basically sink or swim. KPMG was a really fascinating firm to work, and from there I went and did a full-time MBA at Melbourne Business School, which I loved. I've never worked so hard in my entire life. Um, and vowed never to go back into the big four. So I ended up back at Deloitte, which yes, it's a big four, and but at that time it was a very different firm. It was the smallest of the big four, was on a massive growth trajectory, and I absolutely loved my time at Deloitte. It gave me the opportunity to really explore what I'd learnt at my MBA, and the partners there really embraced my willingness to learn and my wanting to try new things. And I remember very distinctly early on that I was doing a Sarbanes-Oxley job, and then someone said, "Does anyone know BCPs? Because I need to do an audit of BCPs." And I said, "Well, I watched a few at KPMG." Immediately, I was put on that work, and I haven't looked back since. And what's fascinating is you have to take these opportunities. You have to put your hand up to try everything when you're just starting a new career and see where the opportunities lead. For me, by saying yes, by putting my hand up, by giving it a go, I started to become a bit of a specialist and worked with some fascinating, amazing people over my career. And I remember my mentor at the time, Kevin Neveris, who ended up being the partner who sponsored me when I became a partner as well. We walked in from a meeting one day and I said, "Kev, I just don't know how I'm ever going to be able to rattle off the understanding of BCPs like you do." And he said, "Craig, give it time. You will." And it's funny looking back on that eventually you learn and you then take on staff and you take on kids and graduates under you, and you become the expert over time. It took me a few years to do that till I became partner. Deloitte was a really huge part of my career. I did some amazing work with incredible companies, traveled the world, went to the US a few times, Canada, Europe, the UK, clients. I launched a new product there, which ended up changing my life, really. We invented the world's first mobile friendly business continuity tool. We called it Bamboo. It consumed me. It helped me to become partner. It almost killed me in the in the work that we did. The firm ended up selling the product to a company called X Matters, who shut it down a couple of years after. But what Bamboo did was it exposed me to the world of software development, taking my love and passion for resilience and combining it with what I had always loved, which was IT, and really gave me the taste for that type of work, which was pretty amazing. Left Deloitte, started my own consulting company, went through a few brand iterations of that, which was interesting. joined up with a partner, Gavin Freeman, who I'd met at Deloitte to do some high performance crisis management. And after a couple of years, everyone kept asking me about Bamboo everywhere I went. So we started to build our own tools to help us run our exercises and then to run BAAs, and then realized that with everyone still asking me about Bamboo, why don't we extend it and expand it? And that's how Battleground, the product, the SaaS product, was born. Now, that journey to building the SaaS product has been an amazing one. But I think that there's a number of kind of stages in my career that different things have happened that have shaped how I work. The first one being when I was thinking of leaving Deloitte, um, was traveling the world with a client, spent a weekend in Israel, went to the Western Wall and had what I can only describe as a revelation there that it was time to leave Deloitte. The next week got home and was promptly told the day after the Christmas party there that they were going to shut my part of the business down. They weren't going to do resilience in the form that we'd been doing it. And it hit me that this revelation I'd had about needing to leave Deloitte, being told that my hands were being forced, and having a meeting set up already with the recruiter the next day to think about what I was going to do with my career, it was a sign and a tell that I had to do it, that it was forcing me down the path of doing something different. And I realized as well the strain that the Big Four had put on my family and how grateful I was in that year that followed to be able to spend more time with my kids, until one of them said to me one night, "Why do you always put us to sleep? Can't mums put us to sleep like she used to?" Because I was just so um, wanting to spend more time with them and wanting to reclaim the lost time. So that was one, that massive pivot there. Straight after COVID as well, Gavin and I talked, and Gavin decided he wanted to retire and sell his share in Battleground. And I was having coffee with a friend of mine who I'd been at school with, David Kishinevsky, one day, who's an investor. And he said openly, "I want to buy what is the share of Gavin." And that turned out to be the next big pivot, where that freeing up of equity, bringing on Kish, a good friend of mine, who is such an amazing strategic thinker and challenger of thought, opened up the opportunity to build Battleground Group, which is what it is today. At that stage, it was me, it was Ray, our developer, it was a part-time consultant, Peter, to what it is today. Peter and Ray are still here, and we're now a team of 14. We have operations in the UK, we have partnerships in the US, we have a full-fledged GRC platform. It's just been such an amazing journey. I guess in three parts, from KPMG to Deloitte, Business Olympian Group, through to when Kish bought the share and we rebranded to Battleground Group until today. One of the passions that I've always had is sales, relationships. Every personality test I do, I always come up very high on the relationship scale. And I think what energizes me is the consulting work. I think spending time with clients, helping them solve problems, doing it in a way that really adds value and is a bit out the box thinking. I like to challenge the norm. I like to think about different ways of doing the same job every time so that we can improve. Really is an important part of what we do. And I hope that comes out in the work that we do. And I think, some of the ideas we have around shrinking plans for business continuity plans and crisis plans, around the way that we rethink how GRC tooling should work and rethink about how BAs are done and things like that. Even the way that we exercise engaging and educational is all part of that same thing. I want to add value. I want to do it in a really ethical way that brings clients on a journey. I think the next interesting part of my journey and the way that I think and the way that I think about business is when you start to become the boss in quotation marks and have to think about how to run a business. The last year has been an amazing transformative year in how I think about business, in how I run the business, in how I've become a CEO over these two parts of the business, the software business and the consulting business. And I'm so grateful to my now mentor and business coach, Gavin Appel, for what he's taught me and the journey he's brought me on, for the way to think about from startup to scale up, for the way to think about my business, for helping me to get the confidence to run the business and to think differently. So I think I'm now in that next stage of my career where I'm now starting to think about how do I scale Battleground, how to be a better CEO, and how to build this culture in the company that I don't need to be in the weeds, that I have trusted directors and people in the business who can do that while we take Battleground to the next level. So I thought this would be an interesting exercise and just talking about me, the journey, the way I think about resilience, the way I think about risk. Um, and I really want to thank all of you for being a part of this journey and my guests on Battleground Chats and, the guests to come, because at the end of the day, when you consult and you, you know, spend all your days talking and having coffee and networking, it really is about the people you meet and the trust that they put in you to get the job done that takes us to the next level. I couldn't be here today without the amazing people that I've worked with and the amazing clients that I've worked with. And I look forward to, what comes next, where the CEO journey can lead, where Battleground Live, the products can go. Working with my son, Ellie, who runs the UK business, who, is a bit of a mini me, and seeing where he's going in the UK gives me a lot of nachas, as they say, which is, a lot of thrills, and I love seeing it happen and seeing where the business goes. So thank you. And that is another episode of Battleground Chats.